CEO Millionaire had no idea he had a child, until a little girl knocked on his door and said, "Daddy, you fired Mommy." Nathan Pierce stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of his penthouse. Manhattan sprawled before him like a glittering kingdom. At 35, he had everything money could buy. Pierce Investments was valued at $9 billion, and the Wall Street Journal had just named him Financial Visionary of the Year. "Mr. Pierce," his home assistant system announced, "there's a visitor at the main entrance, a small visitor." Nathan frowned. He wasn't expecting anyone, especially not on a Sunday. He'd cleared his schedule specifically to review the Westlake acquisition alone. "Show me," he commanded. The smart screen displayed the lobby feed. A little girl stood there, maybe 5 or 6 years old, clutching a small pink backpack. Her blonde hair was pulled into uneven pigtails, and she kept shifting from foot to foot. "What the hell?" Nathan muttered. "Is she alone?" "Appears so, sir," the AI replied. "Security reports no accompanying adult." Something about her seemed oddly familiar. Nathan felt an uncomfortable prickling at the back of his neck. "Send someone to help her find her parents," he said, turning back to his documents. 15 minutes later, his private elevator chimed. Nathan looked up, irritated at the interruption. "Sir," his head of security's voice came through the speaker, "the child insists she needs to see you personally. Says her name is Lily. I don't know any. She's quite persistent, sir. Says it's an emergency about her mother." Nathan sighed. "Fine, send her up." The elevator doors opened, and the little girl stepped out, her eyes startlingly blue, widening as she took in the penthouse. Those eyes. There was something about them that made Nathan's chest tighten. "Hello," he said awkwardly. "I'm told your name is Lily." She nodded, clutching her backpack tighter. "Are you Nathan Pierce?" "I am." "What can I help you with?" The girl took a deep breath, summoning courage that seemed beyond her years. "My mommy said I should never come here, but I had to because she's been crying for 3 days and we don't have any more money for ice cream or rent." Nathan blinked. "I'm sorry, but who is your mother?" "Rebecca Mitchell. She worked for you." In the numbers department, the name hit Nathan like a physical blow. Becca Mitchell, 5 years ago, the financial analyst who'd left suddenly during the Meridian merger. They'd had a brief but intense relationship, kept quiet due to company policy, that ended when she resigned without explanation. "And why are you here about your mother?" he asked, his mouth suddenly dry. Lily stepped forward, her chin lifting in defiance, despite the tears gathering in her eyes. "Papai você demitiu a mamãe," she said, then immediately switched to English. "Daddy, you fired my mommy." Nathan felt the room spin. "Daddy?" He stared at the little girl, really looked at her for the first time. The blonde hair was Becca's, but those eyes, God, those eyes were unmistakably his own. The same piercing blue that looked back at him from every mirror, every magazine cover. That's not possible," he whispered. But even as the words left his mouth, he was counting back. 6 years old, 9 months. The timing aligned perfectly with their relationship. Lily pulled a photograph from her backpack and thrust it toward him. Nathan took it with trembling hands. A hospital picture of Becca holding a newborn. "Mommy said I should never bother you," Lily continued, her voice small but determined. "But you fired her last week, and now she can't stop crying. And I heard her tell Aunt Sarah we might have to move away forever." Nathan couldn't breathe. A daughter. He had a daughter. "How did you find me?" he managed to ask. "Everybody knows where you live," she said with a child's simple logic. "Your picture is on a big sign right outside." As Nathan stared into those familiar blue eyes, his eyes, the carefully constructed walls of his perfect life began to crumble. "I need to call your mother," Nathan said, his voice unsteady as he reached for his phone. Lily shook her head vigorously. "You can't. She doesn't know I'm here. I took the subway by myself." "You what?" Nathan stared at the child in disbelief. "How did you? You're 6 years old." 6.5, Lily corrected, with the seriousness only children can muster. "And I'm smart. Mommy says I'm too smart sometimes." That Nathan could believe. He'd need to have a serious conversation with Becca about child supervision. But first, why did you come here, Lily? What exactly happened with your mom's job? Little girl's shoulders slumped. Last week these men came to Mommy's work. They had papers from Pierce Investments. She came home crying and said she'd been laid off. She told Aunt Sarah it was because of budget cuts. Lily looked up with accusing eyes. Your budget cuts? Nathan's mind raced. The Westlake acquisition had indeed required some departmental restructuring, but he'd left those details to his HR team. He hadn't personally reviewed the list of affected employees. Where is your mother now? He asked. At home. She thinks I'm at my friend Zoe's apartment. Nathan ran a hand through his hair, trying to process everything. A daughter he never knew existed, and apparently he'd inadvertently fired her mother. We need to call her right away. She must be worried sick. Lily's eyes widened with fear. She'll be so mad at me. I'm sure she'll just be relieved. You're safe. Nathan tried to sound reassuring despite his own shock. What's your address? 520 West 48th Street, apartment 3B, Lily recited. Nathan recognized the neighborhood. Not the worst in the city, but certainly not affluent. A far cry from Becca's former Upper East Side apartment. How much had her life changed since she left? His company, since she'd had his child? His child, the thought hit him anew. Lily, why didn't your mother ever tell me about you? The question slipped out before he could stop himself. The little girl looked down at her scuffed sneakers. She said you were too busy with important things, that you wouldn't want to be bothered with us. Each word felt like a knife. Is that really what Becca thought of him? That he was so callous he wouldn't want to know his own daughter? As Nathan dialed Becca's number from the contact information Lily provided, his hands trembled. What would he even say? Hello. I just discovered. I'm a father? The phone rang 5 times before a breathless voice answered. Hello? After 6 years, her voice still affected him. Memories flooded back. Her laugh during late nights at the office, the way she challenged his investment strategies, the stolen kisses in the elevator. Becca, he said, it's Nathan Pierce. Silence, then. How did you get this number? Your daughter is standing in my living room. More silence, then a sharp intake of breath. Oh my God. Is Lily with you? Is she okay? She's fine. Apparently, she took the subway here by herself. To tell me I fired you. Nathan heard what sounded like keys jangling. I'll be there in 20 minutes, please don't. Her voice broke. Just keep her safe until I get there. The line went dead. Nathan looked at Lily, who was now exploring his penthouse with curious eyes. Your mom's on her way, he said. Lily nodded, then pointed to a photograph on his shelf. Is that your mommy and daddy? Yes, Nathan replied, thrown by the sudden change of subject. Where are they now? They died when I was in college. Lily's eyes grew wide. You don't have any parents? That's really sad. For the first time in years, Nathan felt the old grief surface. Yes, he agreed quietly. It is. He watched as this small person, his daughter, examined the relics of his life with innocent curiosity, completely unaware that her presence had just changed everything forever. The 20 minutes it took Becca to arrive felt like an eternity. When the elevator chimed, Nathan's heart hammered against his ribs. The doors slid open and there she was. Rebecca Mitchell had changed in 6 years. Her once long blonde hair was now cut in a practical bob. The designer clothes had been replaced by simple jeans and a worn sweater, but her eyes, those intelligent green eyes that had once captivated him, remained the same, though now they were wide with panic. Lily, she gasped, rushing forward as the little girl ran to her. Mommy. Lily threw herself into her mother's arms. Don't be mad. I just wanted to help. Becca clutched her daughter tight, relief washing over her face before hardening as she looked up at Nathan. What were you thinking, bringing her up here? She demanded. Me? Nathan felt a surge of indignation. I didn't bring her anywhere. She showed up in my lobby claiming to be my daughter. A daughter, I might add, that I knew nothing about until 40 minutes ago. Their eyes locked in a silent standoff, 6 years of unspoken words hanging between them. We should go, Becca said finally, standing with Lily's hand firmly in hers. No, Nathan's voice was calm but resolute. I think we need to talk. There's nothing to discuss. Nothing to... Nathan stopped himself, conscious of Lily watching them with wide eyes. He lowered his voice. Becca, you kept my child a secret for 6 years. You don't think that warrants a conversation? Something flashed in Becca's eyes. Fear. Guilt. She knelt down to Lily's level. Sweetie, can you go sit on that couch over there? I need to talk to Mr. Pierce for a minute. Lily looked between them. Are you going to fight? No, Becca promised. Just grown-up talk. Once Lily was settled with Nathan's tablet, Becca turned to him, arms crossed defensively. You had no right to call her your child. You don't know the first thing about being a father. Because you never gave me the chance. Nathan shot back, keeping his voice low. Why, Becca? Was I really so terrible that you thought I wouldn't want to know? Becca's composure cracked slightly. It wasn't that simple, Nathan. You were building an empire. I was just another employee you were sleeping with against company policy. That's not fair, and you know it. What we had was an affair that would have ruined both our reputations if it got out, she interrupted. Then I got pregnant and I had to make a choice. A choice you made for both of us, Nathan said bitterly. Becca's eyes flashed. Don't you dare judge me. Do you have any idea how terrified I was? 27, pregnant, in love with my boss who spent every waking hour obsessed with his company's growth. The word love hung in the air between them. You could have told me, Nathan said, softer now. I was going to, she admitted. The day I found out I was pregnant, I came to your office. You were on the phone with investors talking about how you couldn't afford distractions, how nothing would stand in the way of the Meridian merger. Nathan remembered that day, the biggest deal of his career at that point, but he had no memory of Becca coming to his office. So I left, she continued. I resigned and decided to raise her on my own. Nathan looked over at Lily, who was engrossed in a game on his tablet. His daughter, a person who shared his DNA, his blood, his eyes, and he'd missed 6 years of her life. And now? He asked quietly. What happens now? Becca's expression hardened again. Nothing happens. This was a mistake. Lily should never have come here. Becca, Nathan's voice dropped to a whisper. You can't just walk out that door and expect me to forget she exists. Their eyes met, and for a moment Nathan saw the woman he'd once known. Brilliant, compassionate, strong. But then the wall came back up. Watch me, she said. Nathan couldn't sleep that night. Lily's visit had shattered the controlled isolation of his life, leaving jagged questions in its wake. By 5 a.m., he gave up trying and headed to his office. Pull the HR files on Rebecca Mitchell, he instructed his assistant the moment she arrived. Everything, employment history, performance reviews, termination details. 2 hours later, Nathan stared at the paperwork on his desk, his anger building. Becca hadn't just been laid off. She'd been specifically targeted in the restructuring by Thomas Harrington, his CFO. The official reason, redundancy. But her performance reviews had been exemplary. In fact, her financial modeling for the Asian markets had saved the company millions. It made no sense. Flipping through more pages, Nathan found his answer. Becca had been working in the analytics department that was auditing the Westlake acquisition, the same acquisition Thomas had been pushing aggressively for months. Nathan's phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. This is Becca, we need to meet, not at your place, the park at W72nd, 1 p.m. The message ended with a period, not a question. Typical Becca, even now. At precisely 1 p.m., Nathan spotted her on a bench watching a group of children on the playground. He followed her gaze to where Lily was climbing a jungle gym with fearless determination. She has your stubbornness, Becca said without looking at him. Nathan sat beside her. I found out why you were fired. It wasn't budget cuts, it was Thomas. He specifically eliminated your position. Now Becca turned to him, surprise evident in her expression. Why would your CFO target me specifically? I think it's because you were auditing the Westlake acquisition. Did you find something in those numbers? Becca's silence was confirmation enough. Becca, what did you find? She glanced around before answering quietly. Discrepancies in the valuation. Westlake's Asian subsidiaries are shell companies hiding substantial debt. If the acquisition goes through, Pierce Investments inherits nearly $300 million in concealed liabilities. Nathan felt the blood drain from his face. The deal was set to close in 10 days. I was compiling evidence when I was terminated, Becca continued. They took my company laptop, deleted my access to the servers. All my work gone. Did you keep copies? Of course I did. I'm not an amateur. A flash of the old Becca, brilliant, and slightly cocky. But I wasn't planning to come forward. Why not? Because Thomas Harrington made it very clear what would happen if I did. Her eyes darted to Lily. He knows about her, Nathan. Somehow he found out she's yours. He implied that if I caused trouble, people might start asking questions about her parentage, about why I really left the company 6 years ago. Cold fury washed over Nathan. Thomas had threatened Becca using her child, their child. I'll destroy him, Nathan said quietly. No, Becca's hand shot out to grab his wrist. That's why I texted you. You can't let on that you know anything. Thomas has powerful friends. He's been with you since the beginning. Who do you think people will believe? I don't care. No one threatens my... He stopped, suddenly unsure what to call Lily. My daughter? My family? Becca's eyes softened slightly at his hesitation. She asks about you, you know. Has for years. What's my daddy like? I've told her you're a good man who's very busy helping people with money. The simple description cut deeper than any criticism could have. I want to know her, Becca, Nathan said, his voice barely audible over the children's laughter. Becca watched Lily swing from one monkey bar to the next. I know, she finally said. That's why I'm here. Nathan waited, hardly daring to breathe. I'm willing to let you spend time with her, Becca said carefully. But we do this my way, slowly. And Thomas can never know she's yours. Not until we figure out what he's really up to. As Lily jumped from the jungle gym and ran toward them, Nathan realized his perfectly ordered life had been irrevocably altered. And strangely, for the first time in years, he felt truly alive. Daddy's coming over? Lily bounced on her bed, hair still wet from her bath, eyes bright with excitement. Yes, but remember what we talked about, Becca reminded her, selecting pajamas from the worn dresser. Mr. Pierce is just getting to know you. No big expectations, okay? Can I show him my science project? Of course. And my rock collection? And the picture I drew of a T-Rex eating a skyscraper. Becca smiled despite her anxiety. Yes, but maybe not all at once. It had been 3 days since the park. 3 days of cautious text exchanges with Nathan, setting boundaries and expectations. Tonight would be his first visit to their small apartment, the first real step into Lily's life. Becca glanced around their home with fresh eyes. The second-hand furniture, the water stain on the ceiling, the crowded bookshelves. After years at Pierce Investments, she'd built a decent life for them on her smaller salary at Metrobank. But it was nothing like Nathan's penthouse. The doorbell rang precisely at 7 p.m. He's here! Lily raced to the door before Becca could stop. Nathan stood in the hallway, looking strangely out of place in casual clothes. Dark jeans and a simple blue sweater that matched his eyes that immediately sought out Lily's identical ones. Hi, he said, awkwardly shifting the packages under his arm. Did you bring presents? Lily asked, straight to the point. Lily, Becca admonished. That's not polite. Nathan smiled. It's okay. And yes, I did bring something. May I come in? Their apartment felt even smaller with Nathan in it. He moved carefully, as if afraid to disturb the delicate ecosystem of their lives. Can I offer you something to drink? Becca asked formally. Coffee, tea, water? Water is fine, thanks. An uncomfortable silence settled between the adults, broken only by Lily's excited chatter as she pulled Nathan to see her bedroom. Look, these are all my books. I can read chapter books already. And this is Sammy, my stuffed koala, and these are my favorite rocks. This one's quartz, this one's fool's gold, and this one's just pretty. Nathan listened with genuine interest, asking questions and examining each treasure as if it were a priceless artifact. Watching them, Becca felt an unexpected twist in her heart. Nathan Pierce, billionaire workaholic, sitting cross-legged on a unicorn rug, discussing the merits of different rocks with complete seriousness. Later, after Lily had proudly shown off, her entire world and finally settled on the couch, Nathan presented his gift, a beginner's telescope. I thought maybe we could look at the stars sometime, he said, uncertainty in his voice. If that's okay with your mom. Lily threw her arms around his neck, and Becca saw Nathan freeze for a moment, before carefully returning the hug, his expression a mixture of wonder and terror. After they'd set up the telescope by the window and Lily had excitedly identified 3 constellations, Becca announced bedtime. "Can Daddy read me a story?" Lily asked. The word Daddy hung in the air. Nathan looked to Becca, clearly unsure how to respond. "If he'd like to," Becca said carefully. Nathan nodded, his voice thick. "I'd like that very much." As Lily led Nathan to her bedroom, Becca stayed behind, emotions churning. Seeing them together made everything more complicated, more real. This wasn't just about a corporate scandal anymore. It was about Lily's future, her identity, the father she'd always wondered. About when Nathan emerged 15 minutes later, his expression was transformed. "She's incredible," he said quietly. "So smart, so curious. She asked me if stars have birthdays." Becca smiled despite herself. "What did you tell her?" "That stars are born when cosmic dust comes together. So yes, they do have birthdays." Very, very long ones. They settled at the small kitchen table, the sleeping child a powerful presence between them. "Becca," Nathan said, his voice serious, "I've been investigating Thomas. There's more going on than just the Westlake deal. He's been siphoning company funds for years, small amounts disguised as consulting fees to a company called Artemis Global." "A shell corporation?" Nathan nodded. "Registered in the Caymans. I think the Westlake acquisition is his endgame. Once those hidden debts crash Pierce Investments' stock value, he'll make a fortune shorting your company," Becca finished, her analyst's mind connecting the dots. "You need to stop him." "I will," Nathan promised, "but I need your help. You were always better with the details than anyone." Their eyes met across the table, and for a moment it was like the past 6 years hadn't happened. "What about Lily?" Becca asked. "If we do this, the truth about her will eventually come out." Nathan was quiet for a long moment. "I've missed 6 years of her life, Becca. I don't want to miss any more. Whatever happens with Thomas, with the company, I want to be her father. Publicly, proudly." The weight of his words settled between them, full of promise and complication. "And us?" Becca finally asked, the question she'd been avoiding. "What happens to us in all this?" "Uncle Thomas," Lily squealed, running across the restaurant toward the distinguished grey-haired man rising from his table. Becca hurried after her, forcing a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Lily, don't run indoors." Thomas Harrington bent down to Lily's level, with practiced charm. "There's my favorite little genius. Did you bring me a new rock for my collection?" Lily proudly produced a small stone from her pocket. "It's granite with sparkly bits." "Magnificent," Thomas exclaimed, pocketing the rock. "The perfect addition." He straightened, his smile cooling several degrees as he addressed Becca. "Rebecca, what a pleasant surprise. I didn't expect to see you after our professional parting." "Small world," Becca replied tightly. This encounter was no coincidence. Thomas frequented this cafe every Sunday, a fact she'd shared with Nathan in their planning. "Join me," Thomas insisted, gesturing to his table. "I was just about to order dessert. Lily, they have excellent chocolate cake." As they settled at his table, Becca surreptitiously checked her phone. No text from Nathan yet. He was supposed to be using this distraction to access Thomas's office at Pierce Tower. "How are you managing?" Thomas asked with concerned condescension. "I heard Metrobank's analytics department isn't quite as prestigious as what you're used to." "We're doing fine," Becca replied coolly. "You know," Thomas leaned forward, lowering his voice, "I've always felt terrible about how things ended at Pierce. Such an unfortunate necessity during restructuring." The waiter arrived with Thomas's coffee and took their dessert order. As he left, Thomas's phone buzzed. He frowned at the screen. "Trouble?" Becca asked innocently. "Nothing important." He pocketed the phone but looked suddenly distracted. "You know, Rebecca, I've been thinking, there might be a position opening up in one of my private ventures, something more suited to your talents." "Really?" Becca raised an eyebrow. "What kind of venture?" "Investment management, very exclusive client list." Thomas stirred his coffee. "The compensation would be substantial, enough to perhaps move little Lily to a better neighborhood, better schools." Becca understood the real message, a bribe for her silence. "That's very generous," she said carefully. "Why the sudden interest in my career?" Thomas's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Let's just say I've always admired your analytical skills and your discretion." Lily, bored with the adult conversation, had wandered to the nearby fish tank. Becca kept her in peripheral vision while maintaining eye contact with Thomas. "My discretion?" she asked. "Absolutely. You've always been prudent about certain personal matters." His gaze flicked meaningfully toward Lily. "I value that quality. Some things are better kept private, don't you agree?" A chill ran down Becca's spine. The threat was clear. "You know," Thomas continued, "Lily is such a remarkable child. Those eyes of hers are quite distinctive. They remind me of someone." Becca's phone vibrated. Nathan's text, "Got what we need, get out now." "Lily, sweetie," Becca called, standing abruptly. "We need to go." Thomas caught her wrist, his grip surprisingly strong. "Don't be hasty, Rebecca. We haven't even had our cake." Another time, Becca pulled free. "Before you go," Thomas said, his voice hardening, "a word of advice. Be careful about the company you keep these days, especially old friendships. They might lead to uncomfortable questions about the past." Becca gathered Lily and headed for the door, fighting to keep her composure. Outside, she hurried Lily down the block, constantly checking over her shoulder. "Why? Are we walking so fast, Mommy? What about the cake?" "We'll get cake somewhere else," Becca promised, her mind racing. Her phone rang. "Nathan." "Did he suspect anything?" Nathan asked without preamble. "Yes, he knows, Nathan. About Lily. About us meeting. He all but said it outright." Nathan swore softly. "It's worse than we thought. The files show Thomas has been planning this for years. And there's something else. He's been having you followed." Becca froze, instinctively, pulling Lily closer. "Get to your sister's place in Brooklyn," Nathan instructed. "Don't go home, I'll meet you there." "Nathan, if he knows about Lily being yours—" "Listen to me." Nathan's voice was steel. "No one threatens my family. No one. I'll handle Thomas, but right now, I need you and Lily safe." Family. The word echoed in Becca's mind as she flagged down a taxi. In just 2 weeks, everything had changed. The walls she'd built to protect Lily, to protect herself, were crumbling. As the taxi pulled away, Becca spotted a black sedan pulling out behind them. Her heart raced as she clutched Lily tighter. "Mommy?" Lily looked up, sensing her fear. "What's wrong?" "Nothing, sweetheart," Becca lied, watching the sedan through the rear window. "Everything's going to be fine." But as the car maintained its distance behind them through every turn, Becca knew they had just entered a very dangerous game, one where Lily was the ultimate prize. The Brooklyn brownstone belonging to Becca's sister Sarah was cramped but cozy, decorated with colorful artwork and mismatched furniture. After checking that they hadn't been followed to this final location, they'd switched taxis twice, Becca finally allowed herself to breathe. "Aunt Sarah!" Lily ran into her aunt's arms. "We're having an adventure!" Sarah Mitchell, a kindergarten teacher with the same blonde hair as her sister but softer features, shot Becca a questioning look over Lily's head. "Why don't you go check out the new puzzle I got?" Sarah suggested to Lily, pointing toward the living room. Once the child was out of earshot, she turned to Becca. "What's going on? Your text said it was an emergency." "It is," Becca admitted. "I can't explain everything right now, but we needed somewhere safe to stay." Sarah's eyes widened. "Safe? Becca, are you in some kind of trouble?" Before Becca could answer, there was a sharp knock at the door. Both women tensed. "Are you expecting someone?" Becca whispered. Sarah shook her head, moving toward the baseball bat she kept by the door, a necessity for a single woman in the city. "It's Nathan Pierce," came a voice from the other side. Sarah's jaw dropped. "Nathan Pierce, as in Lily's father," Becca confirmed quietly. "Yes." Sarah lowered the bat, her expression a mixture of shock and disbelief. "When you said you were in trouble, I didn't realize." She opened the door to reveal Nathan, his normally impeccable appearance disheveled, tension etched into his face. "Sarah," he acknowledged with a nod, having met her briefly years ago at company functions. "Thank you for sheltering them." "I'd say any time, but I'm still trying to process what's happening," Sarah replied, letting him in. Nathan's eyes immediately sought out Becca. You weren't followed? No. We took precautions. He nodded, some of the tension leaving his shoulders. Good. Daddy, Lily called, running from the living room. The natural way she used the term now, after just 2 weeks of knowing him, made something twist in Becca's chest. Nathan knelt down, his entire demeanor softening. Hey, kiddo. You doing okay? Lily nodded solemnly. Mommy says we're playing a game where we can't go home yet. That's right, Nathan said. Just for a little while. Sarah cleared her throat. Lily, why don't you show me how far you've gotten on that puzzle while your parents talk? Once they were alone in Sarah's small kitchen, Becca studied Nathan's face. How bad is it? Bad, he admitted, running a hand through his hair. Thomas knows I accessed his office. He's called an emergency board meeting for tomorrow morning. What did you find? Everything. Bank transfers, shell companies, documentation of the Westlake fraud. Thomas has been planning this for years. Becca, and that's not all. Nathan's voice lowered. I found a file on you and Lily. Becca felt her blood turn cold. What kind of file? Surveillance photos going back 3 years, school records, medical files. Nathan's hands clenched into fists. He's known she was mine all along. He's been watching you both, collecting leverage. But why? I was gone from the company. I wasn't a threat. Insurance, Nathan said grimly. In case his scheme was ever discovered, you were the one person who might have spotted the financial discrepancies. He needed something to keep you quiet. Becca sank into a chair, her mind racing. What's his play now? He'll try to convince the board I'm unstable, that I've become obsessed with a former employee who's making false claims about company finances. And Lily? Nathan hesitated. He'll use her as proof. Claim I'm having some kind of midlife crisis, inventing a child to fill some void. But DNA tests would take time we don't have. The Westlake deal closes in 5 days. Becca felt a surge of determination. Then we need to move faster than... Thomas? I still have copies of my original findings. If we can present them to the board before Thomas poisons them against you... It's risky, Nathan warned. If Thomas realizes what we're doing... The unspoken threat hung in the air between them. Thomas Harrington wasn't just a white-collar criminal. He was dangerous, willing to use a child as leverage. I won't hide forever, Becca said firmly, and I won't let him threaten Lily. Nathan studied her face for a long moment. You know, I always admired your courage, even when you drove me crazy with your stubbornness. A ghost of a smile crossed Becca's face. You aren't exactly easy to work with either. Mr. 3% improvement isn't good enough. For a brief moment, the years between them seemed to disappear. Then Nathan's expression grew serious again. Becca, there's something else you should... No, if we do this, if we expose Thomas, there will be consequences. Pierce Investments stock will take a hit. The press will have a field day with the scandal. And with Lily, Becca added quietly. Nathan nodded. I won't force you into the spotlight. If you want, after Thomas is dealt with, we can find a way to keep your privacy. Becca studied the man before her, the father of her child, the billionaire she'd once loved in secret, the man who, despite everything, had immediately stepped up to protect a daughter he'd only just discovered. And what do you want, Nathan? His blue eyes, Lily's eyes, met hers with unflinching honesty. I want my daughter in my life, and I want... Whatever he was about to say was interrupted by Lily's excited voice from the living room. Mommy, Daddy, Aunt Sarah and I finished the puzzle. Come see? They exchanged a look, the moment broken. We'll figure this out, Nathan promised, standing. Together. As they joined Lily and Sarah in the living room, none of them noticed the black sedan that had just parked across the street, or the man inside taking photographs with a telephoto lens. The sleek boardroom of Pierce Investments fell silent as Nathan entered, Becca at his side. 12 pairs of eyes followed them, 11 board members and Thomas Harrington, whose practiced concern couldn't quite mask his surprise at seeing Becca. Nathan? Thomas recovered quickly. We weren't expecting Ms. Mitchell to join us. I invited her, Nathan replied calmly. taking his seat at the head of the table. As the financial analyst who first identified irregularities in the Westlake acquisition, her input is invaluable. Thomas's smile tightened. I was under the impression this meeting was to discuss your personal situation. My personal situation? Nathan raised an eyebrow. Eleanor Winters, the eldest board member and a longtime friend of Nathan's parents, spoke up. Thomas has expressed concerns about your decision-making lately, Nathan. He says you've become distracted. I see. Nathan nodded thoughtfully. And what evidence did Thomas provide for these concerns? Thomas opened a folder before him. Over the past 2 weeks, Nathan has been in regular contact with a former employee who was terminated for performance issues. He's been seen visiting her residence, missing critical meetings and making erratic decisions regarding the Westlake acquisition. Is this true, Nathan? Asked James Porter, the board's most conservative member. Some of it, Nathan admitted. I have indeed been in contact with Ms. Mitchell, but not for the reasons Thomas suggests. He nodded to Becca, who distributed folders to each board member. What you're looking at, Becca explained, is evidence of financial fraud within the Westlake Group. Their Asian subsidiaries are hiding substantial debt behind shell corporations, debt that Pierce Investments would inherit upon acquisition. The board members flipped through the documents with growing concern. Additionally, Nathan continued, you'll find evidence that Thomas Harrington has been aware of this fraud from the beginning. In fact, he's been actively concealing it while positioning himself to profit from the resulting stock collapse. Thomas's face reddened. This is absurd. She's making things up to save her job. My job? Becca interrupted. I was fired 3 weeks ago, shortly after discovering these discrepancies. A coincidence, Thomas scoffed. Is it also a coincidence that you've been transferring company funds to Artemis Global, a shell corporation you control in the Caymans? Nathan asked, sliding another document across the table. Or that you've been monitoring Ms. Mitchell and her daughter for years through a private security firm paid with company money. Murmurs rippled through the room as the board members exchanged troubled glances. Thomas stood abruptly. I don't have to listen to these baseless accusations. This woman has clearly manipulated you, Nathan. Perhaps if the board knew why, they're about to. Nathan cut him off. Ms. Mitchell has a 6-year-old daughter, my daughter. The room went completely still. A fact you discovered and have been using as leverage against Ms. Mitchell, Nathan continued, threatening her and, by extension, my child. Eleanor Winters removed her glasses, her expression grave. Thomas, is this true? Of course not, Thomas scoffed, but sweat had appeared on his brow. Nathan's been taken in by a con artist. There's no proof this child is his. Actually, Nathan said quietly, there is. He nodded to his assistant, who opened the boardroom door. Sarah entered, holding Lily's hand. The resemblance was unmistakable. The same piercing blue eyes, the same determined set of the jaw. Several board members gasped audibly. This is Lily, Nathan said, his voice softening. My daughter. Lily looked around the imposing room with curious eyes, not intimidated in the slightest. Are these all your friends, Daddy? A smile tugged at Nathan's lips. Some of them. Thomas looked from Lily to Nathan, his face draining of color. This proves nothing. A convenient child with blue eyes. DNA tests are already in process, Nathan interrupted. But I don't think anyone in this room has any doubts. Eleanor Winters stood slowly, her gaze fixed on Thomas. I believe we've heard enough. Security will escort Mr. Harrington from the building while we contact the authorities. You can't do this, Thomas's composure finally cracked. I built this company with you, Nathan. Everything I did was for Pierce Investments. No, Nathan said quietly. Everything you did was for yourself, and you were willing to use my daughter to do it. As security led a protesting Thomas away, Nathan turned to find Becca kneeling beside Lily, whispering reassurances to the confused child. The board members filed out discreetly, leaving the three of them alone in the vast boardroom. Did I do good, Mommy? Lily asked. You did perfect, sweetheart, Becca assured her, just by being you. Nathan knelt down beside them, forming a small circle. I'm sorry you had to be here for this, Lily, but you helped stop a bad man from doing bad things. Lily considered this seriously. Like a superhero? Nathan smiled. Exactly like a superhero. As Lily beamed with pride, Nathan's eyes met Becca's over their daughter's head. The victory felt hollow compared to what still lay ahead, explaining to Lily who she really was, navigating their new family dynamic, facing the inevitable media storm. But for now, in this moment, they were simply three people connected by bonds stronger than fraud, deception, or 6 years of separation could sever. Pierce Air revealed, billionaire's secret daughter uncovered during corporate fraud investigation. The headline screamed from every newsstand in Manhattan. Becca tossed the newspaper onto Sarah's kitchen table with a sigh. It gets worse, she said, sliding her tablet toward Nathan. Social media is having a field day. Half the comments are calling me a gold digger. The other half are calling you a deadbeat dad. Nathan scanned the articles grimly. Despite their best efforts to control the narrative, the story had exploded overnight. Thomas Harrington's arrest, on charges of embezzlement and fraud, had taken a back seat to the revelation of Nathan's secret child. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "I never wanted this for you and Lily." "It's not your fault," Becca replied, pouring another cup of coffee. "We knew this would happen once we went public." They'd been staying at Sarah's for 3 days now, unable to return to their respective homes due to the media frenzy. Photographers camped outside both residences, hoping for a glimpse of the newfound Pierce heiress. Ms. Mitchell declined comment. Read another headline. Sources close to Pierce claim he was shocked by child's existence. Nathan's jaw tightened. "These sources need to shut up. I've already issued a statement confirming I'm Lily's father and that I fully support both of you." "Which only fueled speculation about why I kept her a secret," Becca pointed out. "The narrative is pretty clear. Ambitious employee traps, billionaire boss, then hides child until convenient moment for financial gain. No one who knows you would believe that. The public doesn't know me, Nathan. They know you. America's most eligible billionaire bachelor suddenly saddled with a ready-made family." Before Nathan could respond, Sarah entered with Lily in tow, back from their early morning trip to the corner store, disguised in matching baseball caps and sunglasses. "We got donuts," Lily announced triumphantly, oblivious to the tension. "And I saw my picture in the store. Why am I in the newspapers, Daddy?" Nathan exchanged a glance with Becca. They'd done their best to shield Lily from the media circus. But they couldn't protect her forever. "Well," Nathan began carefully, "sometimes when people find out something interesting, they like to tell everyone about it." "And you being my daddy is interesting?" Lily asked, climbing onto his lap with a familiarity that still amazed him. "To some people, yes." Lily considered this. "Is that why those people were taking pictures outside school yesterday?" Becca stiffened. "What people?" "The ones with the big cameras. Miss Thompson made them go away." Another look passed between the adults. Lily's private school had promised increased security, but evidently some photographers had gotten too close. "Lily," Becca said gently, "how would you feel about taking a little vacation?" "A vacation?" Lily perked up. "Where?" "I have a house in Connecticut," Nathan offered. "Private property, gated entrance. The press wouldn't be able to get near it." "With a swimming pool?" Lily asked eagerly. Nathan smiled. "Two, actually, one inside and one outside." "Can we go, Mommy, please?" Becca hesitated. Retreating to Nathan's estate would certainly provide privacy, but it also meant fully entering his world, something she'd deliberately avoided for 6 years. "I don't know, Lily. My job? I've already spoken with your supervisor at Metrobank." Nathan interrupted. "Given the circumstances, they've approved a paid leave of absence." Becca raised an eyebrow. "You called my boss?" "I was trying to help," Nathan said defensively, "by making decisions for me." "Again?" Sarah cleared her throat pointedly, nodding toward Lily, who was watching them with wide eyes. "Let's discuss this later," Becca conceded. "I need to check in at the office anyway," Nathan said, standing. "The Westlake fallout needs managing, and we're announcing a new CFO this afternoon." "Can I come with you, Daddy?" Lily asked. The request caught both parents by surprise. "To my office?" Nathan clarified. Lily nodded enthusiastically. "I want to see where you work. Do you have a big desk? Do people bring you coffee? Can I sit in your spinny chair?" Nathan looked to Becca, clearly torn between wanting to grant his daughter's wish and respecting her mother's boundaries. Becca sighed, recognizing the inevitable. Lily was curious about her father's world, and Nathan was eager to share it with her. Fighting this natural progression would only make things harder. 1 hour, she conceded, and only in your private office, not parading around the building. Nathan's face lit up almost as brightly as Lily's. I'll have security clear a private entrance. No press, I promise. As Nathan helped Lily put on her shoes, his phone chimed. With a text, he frowned at the screen. What is it? Becca asked. The board, he replied quietly. They've called an emergency meeting for tomorrow. Apparently, some of the members have concerns about the company's future leadership in light of recent events. They can't seriously be questioning your position? Pierce. Investment stock dropped 12 points yesterday. Some shareholders are panicking. The weight of reality settled back onto Becca's shoulders. This wasn't just about privacy and photographers anymore. Nathan's entire empire could be at risk. Because of her. Because of Lily. Maybe we should take that trip to Connecticut after all, she said softly. All of us. The Pierce estate in Connecticut was everything Becca had imagined and feared. 40 acres of manicured grounds, a mansion with more bathrooms than she could count, and a staff that materialized silently to attend to every need. This place is huge, Lily exclaimed, racing down hallways and peering into rooms with unrestrained delight. It's like a castle. Nathan watched her exploration with obvious pleasure. My parents bought it when I was about Lily's age. I learned to swim in that lake. Down there. Becca followed his gaze through the floor-to-ceiling windows to the private lake glittering in the distance. It's beautiful, she admitted. But not your style, Nathan observed shrewdly. Is it that obvious? You keep looking at things like you're afraid to touch them, Becca sighed. It's just overwhelming. You have staff watching our every move. They're here to help, not spy, Nathan assured her, but I can ask them to give us more space if you'd prefer. Before she could answer, Lily came running back, excitement radiating from her small face. Daddy! There's a tree house, a real one. Can we go see it, please? Of course, Nathan replied. It was my favorite place when I was growing up. As Nathan led Lily outside, Becca's phone rang. Sarah's number. How's the billionaire playground? Her sister asked without preamble. Intimidating, Becca admitted. I feel like I'm in a museum where I might break something priceless. That bad, huh? Listen, I just saw something you should know about. Thomas Harrington made bail this morning. Becca's blood ran cold. How? I thought the evidence against him was overwhelming. It is, but apparently he has connections. And Becca. He gave an interview on his way out of the courthouse. What did he say? That you and Nathan conspired to frame him because of your illegitimate relationship. He implied you've been blackmailing Nathan with Lily for years. Becca closed her eyes, fighting a wave of nausea. The DNA results aren't even back yet. I know, but the damage is being done. People love a scandal, and Thomas is giving them exactly what they want. The scorned employee, the billionaire's love child, corporate corruption. Through the window, Becca could see Nathan lifting Lily onto his shoulders to reach the treehouse ladder. The simple joy on both their faces seemed a world away from the ugliness Sarah was describing. There's something else, Sarah continued, hesitantly. Thomas mentioned a name, James Holloway. Becca froze. What about him? He said you should ask Nathan about him, that there's more to the story than Nathan's letting on. After ending the call, Becca sat motionless, her mind racing. James Holloway, a name she hadn't heard in years, hadn't wanted to hear. When Nathan and Lily returned, flushed and laughing from their outdoor adventure, Becca was waiting in the study, her expression grave. Lily, why don't you go ask Ms. Rivera for some hot chocolate, she suggested, referring to the housekeeper who had taken an immediate liking to the child. Once Lily was out of earshot, Becca turned to Nathan. Thomas made bail. Nathan's expression darkened. I heard my lawyers are already working on it. He mentioned James Holloway. The color drained from Nathan's face. For a moment, he looked as though he might deny knowing the name, but then his shoulders sagged. How much do you know? He asked quietly. I know he was your roommate at Princeton, Becca replied. I know he worked for Pierce Investments in the early days, and I know he disappeared from the company right before I was hired. Nathan moved to the bar cart in the corner, pouring himself a drink with hands that weren't quite steady. Did Thomas say anything else? Just that I should ask you about him, that there's more to the story. Becca studied Nathan's face carefully. Is there? Nathan took a long swallow of his drink before answering. James was more than my roommate. He was my best friend. We started the company together right out of college. What happened to him? He wanted to take the company in a different direction. More aggressive investments, higher risk. We had a falling out. And? Nathan's eyes met hers, filled with a pain that surprised her. And I forced him out. Used a clause in our partnership, agreement to buy his shares at a fraction of their worth. That doesn't sound like you, Becca said softly. Doesn't it? Nathan's laugh was bitter. I was 26 and power-hungry. James threatened my vision for Pierce Investments, so I eliminated the threat. The parallel to Thomas was uncomfortably clear. What happened to James after that? Becca asked. He tried to start over. New company, new investors. But Nathan's voice faltered. I made sure no one would back him, called in favors, spread rumors about his reliability. He lost everything. His savings, his reputation, eventually his family. Becca felt a chill. This was a side of Nathan she'd never seen, never imagined existed. 3 years ago, he died, Nathan continued quietly. Suicide. Left a note naming me as the reason. The silence that followed was deafening. Why is Thomas bringing this up now? Becca finally asked. Because James Holloway wasn't just my former partner, Nathan said, his eyes meeting hers with painful honesty. He was Thomas's brother-in-law. The revelation hit Becca like a physical blow. Thomas blames you for his death. Nathan nodded. This was never just about money. Thomas has been planning his revenge for years. The financial fraud using Lily as leverage, it was all designed to destroy me the same way he believes I destroyed James. And now he's out on bail, Becca whispered, with nothing left to lose, Nathan added grimly. As if on cue, Nathan's phone rang. His security chief's voice was audible even from where Becca stood. Sir, we have a breach at the northeast perimeter. Multiple intruders. Nathan's eyes locked with Becca's, a single thought passing between them. Lily, they said in unison. Lock down the house, Nathan ordered into his phone as they raced through the mansion. All security personnel on high alert. No one gets near my daughter. Becca's heart pounded in her chest as they rounded the corner to the kitchen where they'd left Lily. Relief flooded through her when she saw the little girl perched on a stool, happily sipping hot chocolate while Ms. Rivera washed dishes nearby. Mommy! Daddy! Lily beamed. Ms. Rivera made me marshmallows too. Change of plans, sweetheart, Becca said, forcing a calm she didn't feel. We're going to play a game. Lily's eyes lit up. What kind of game? Hide and seek, Nathan said, nodding to Ms. Rivera, who immediately understood the severity of the situation. A special version. The housekeeper quietly slipped out, presumably to alert the rest of the staff. Is this about the bad men? Lily asked, surprising both adults. What bad men? Becca asked carefully. I saw them from the treehouse. They were in the trees by the fence. Daddy said not to worry, that the security men would handle it. Nathan paled. You saw them earlier. Why didn't you say anything? You said not to worry, Lily replied simply. And then we were having so much fun, I forgot. Nathan and Becca exchanged alarmed glances. If Thomas's men had been watching the property hours ago, this wasn't a spontaneous attack. It was a calculated plan. Nathan's security chief appeared in the doorway, his expression grim. Sir, we've detected unauthorized access to the security system. Someone's been intercepting our camera feeds. They've been watching us, Becca realized, a chill running down her spine. The safe room, Nathan decided, lifting Lily into his arms. Now, they hurried through the mansion, Nathan leading the way to what appeared to be a normal bookshelf in his study. With a press of a hidden button, the shelf slid aside to reveal a reinforced metal door. Cool, Lily exclaimed, clearly still thinking. This was all an elaborate game. Inside was a windowless room equipped with monitors, communications equipment, a bathroom, and enough supplies to last days. "Stay here," Nathan instructed, setting Lily down. "I need to coordinate with security." "No." Becca grabbed his arm. "We stay together." "Becca, I can't protect you if—" "This isn't about protection," she interrupted fiercely. "This is about Thomas. He knows you, Nathan. He's studied you for years. He knows you'll try to play the hero." Nathan's jaw tightened. "What would you have me do? Hide while my security team faces armed intruders?" "Yes," Becca said simply, "because Lily needs her father, the father she just found." The mention of Lily seemed to deflate Nathan's resistance. He glanced at their daughter, who was exploring the safe room with curious eyes, still blissfully unaware of the danger. "Okay," he conceded, "we stay together." Nathan activated the communications system, speaking rapidly with his security team. The news wasn't good. At least 6 intruders had breached the grounds, well-armed and clearly professional. "They've cut the landlines," the security chief reported. "Cell jammers are active too. We're isolated." "What about the panic button?" Nathan asked. "It should have alerted the police automatically." "No confirmation of response, sir. We have to assume it's been compromised as well." Becca sank into a chair, the reality of their situation settling in. Thomas had planned this meticulously, isolating them before attacking. How did he organize this so quickly after making bail? She wondered aloud. "He didn't," Nathan replied grimly. "This was already in motion. Thomas making bail wasn't luck. It was part of the plan. He needed to be out to give the final go-ahead." On the security monitors, they watched as Nathan's security team engaged with the intruders, exchanging gunfire across the manicured grounds. Despite being outnumbered, the trained professionals were holding their own. "Daddy, are those fireworks?" Lily asked, pointing to the muzzle flashes visible on one of the screens. Nathan pulled her away from the monitors. "No, sweetheart. Just part of the game." "Hey, why don't you show me that new book Aunt Sarah gave you?" As Nathan distracted Lily, Becca noticed something on one of the monitors, a figure moving separately from the main group of attackers, approaching the house from a different angle. While the security team was focused on the frontal assault, this lone figure had reached the east wing undetected. "Nathan," she whispered urgently. "Look!" Nathan followed her gaze, his face hardening as he recognized the figure. Thomas. On the screen, Thomas moved with purpose, clearly familiar with the layout of the estate. He was heading directly toward the study, toward the safe room. "He knows where we are," Becca realized with horror. Nathan's expression grew even more grim. "The safe room was installed when James and I were still partners. He knew about it." And he told Thomas. The implications were clear. Their supposedly secure hiding place was compromised. It was only a matter of time before Thomas reached them. "We need to move," Nathan decided, gathering Lily. "There's a secondary exit, leads to the garage. If we can reach one of the vehicles," Becca nodded, her mind racing. "What about your security team? Can they help?" "They're pinned down by the main assault. We're on our own." Nathan opened a cabinet, removing a handgun. Becca's eyes widened. "Nathan, I won't let him hurt either of you," Nathan said quietly, checking the weapon before tucking it into his waistband. Lily, sensing the change in mood, looked between her parents with growing concern. "Mommy, is this still a game?" Becca knelt down, taking Lily's small hands in hers. "It's a very important game, sweetheart. We need to be extra quiet and do exactly what Daddy says. Can you do that?" Lily nodded solemnly. "Like spies?" "Just like spies," Becca confirmed, forcing a smile. Nathan activated the secondary exit, a narrow passage concealed behind a false wall. "Stay close," he instructed, taking Lily's hand. As they slipped into the dark passageway, Becca couldn't help but think about how quickly everything had changed. 3 weeks ago, she'd been a single mother struggling to make ends meet after losing her job. Now she was fleeing armed intruders alongside a billionaire she'd once loved, trying to protect the daughter they shared. And somewhere in the mansion, Thomas Harrington was hunting them, driven by a vendetta years in the making, a vendetta Nathan had unknowingly created through his own ruthless pursuit of success. The past had finally caught up with all of them, and Lily was caught in the middle. The narrow passage was pitch black, with only Nathan's phone flashlight illuminating their way. Lily clung to her father's hand, her earlier excitement replaced by silent fear. Becca followed closely, straining to hear any sounds of pursuit. "Almost there," Nathan whispered, guiding them around a corner. "The passage leads to the garage's maintenance room." As they reached the end, Nathan cautiously eased the hidden door open. The garage was dimly lit and quiet, 3 luxury vehicles waiting like sleeping beasts. "The SUV has bulletproof glass," Nathan said, moving toward the largest vehicle. A sound from above made them freeze, footsteps on the floor overhead. "He's in the house," Becca whispered. Nathan quickly ushered them toward the SUV, unlocking it. "With a remote. Get in. Keys are inside." Just as they reached the vehicle, the interior garage door burst open. Thomas Harrington stood there, gun raised, expression cold with hatred. "Going somewhere, Nathan?" he asked, voice eerily calm. Nathan pushed Becca and Lily behind him. "This is between us, Thomas. Let them go." Thomas laughed bitterly. "That's not how revenge works. You took everything from James, his company, his reputation, his will to live. Now I'm taking everything from you." "I made mistakes," Nathan admitted, hands raised placatingly. "Terrible ones. But Lily is innocent. She's just a child." "So were James's children when they lost their father," Thomas replied. "Actions have consequences, Nathan, something you never understood." As Thomas stepped closer, Lily peered around Nathan's legs. "You're the man who gave Mummy's job away." Thomas faltered slightly at the child's voice. In that split second of distraction, Nathan lunged forward, knocking Thomas's arm upward as the gun discharged into the ceiling. "Run!" Nathan shouted to Becca. What followed was chaos, 2 men fighting desperately as Becca pulled Lily toward the SUV. The gun skittered across the concrete floor, out of reach. Thomas, driven by years of hatred, fought with unexpected strength. He slammed Nathan against a workbench, tools clattering to the ground. "You destroy everyone around you, Pierce," Thomas snarled. "Just like you destroyed James." Nathan blocked a punch, guilt and regret fueling his own determination. "I've spent years trying to atone for what I did to James." "Atone?" Thomas laughed, bitterly. "By becoming even richer, by destroying more lives." In the SUV, Becca fumbled with the keys, hands shaking as she watched the fight through the windshield. Lily sat frozen beside her, tears streaming silently down her face. "Start the car, Mommy," she pleaded, but Becca couldn't leave Nathan. Not again. Not like this. Making a split-second decision, she turned to Lily. "Stay here. Lock the doors. Don't open them for anyone but me or Daddy." Outside, the fight had turned deadly. Thomas had grabbed a wrench, swinging it with killing intent. Nathan, bloodied but determined, fought defensively, clearly trying to subdue rather than harm. "You had everything!" Thomas shouted, each word, punctuated by another swing. "Money, success, and now a family. You don't deserve any of it." In a sudden movement, Thomas lunged forward with the wrench. Nathan sidestepped, using Thomas's momentum to push him off balance. Thomas stumbled, crashing heavily into a tool cabinet. The garage fell silent. Nathan stood breathing heavily, watching as Thomas struggled to rise, then collapsed. "It's over, Thomas," Nathan said quietly. The wail of distant sirens finally pierced the night. Someone, perhaps a security guard, perhaps a neighbor, had alerted the police. Becca rushed to Nathan's side. "Are you hurt?" "I'll live," he said, wincing at a gash on his arm. "Lily?" "In the car. Safe." Together they approached Thomas, who lay defeated on the garage floor, rage replaced by hollow despair. "You know the worst part, Pierce?" Thomas murmured, blood trickling from his mouth. "James would have forgiven you. That's who he was, the better man." Nathan knelt beside his fallen enemy. "You're right. He was better than both of us." As police and paramedics flooded the property, Lily ran to her parents, throwing herself into their embrace. For a moment, the 3 of them clung together, the simple miracle of survival overwhelming all else. Later, as dawn broke over the estate, Nathan found Becca on the terrace, watching Lily sleep through the open bedroom door. The police said Thomas will survive, he told her. He'll face kidnapping charges on top of everything else. Becca nodded silently. I need to tell you something, Nathan continued. After James died, I established a foundation in his name. Half the company's charitable work goes toward mental health support for entrepreneurs and displaced executives. Trying to atone, Becca said softly. Failing, Nathan admitted, until Lily showed up at my door. Their eyes met. 6 years of separation dissolving in shared understanding. I can't change who I was, Nathan said, but I can be better for her. For you, if you'll let me. Becca studied the man before her, not the ruthless billionaire or the polished executive, but the father who had fought for his child, the man facing his darkest mistakes. It won't be easy, she warned. Nothing worth having ever is. As the sun rose higher, casting golden light across the battered estate, Lily stirred in her sleep. 2 people who had once lost each other watched over the miracle they had created. Together, a new beginning born from the ashes of the past. A second chance neither had expected, but both now embraced with open hearts.